When the thoughts are calmly collected and the imagination is properly directed, the dots are easily connected.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Connecting the Dots. I'm your host, Nico Sofianos, and today we have Tarek Bibi in the house. Tarek Bibi, aka Indigo Prophet, and I emphasize the second part because I personally know Tarek through his rap work. I met him a long time ago at the Whole Life Expo at the Convention Center in Toronto. He was wearing a shirt, literally said, "Be the change." And I was literally just finishing the beat and the chorus of Be the Change, one of the tracks on my first album, Power. And the synchronicities in and around just him and I meeting, and just from that time to now, it's been crazy. I wanted to bring him on the show so we could talk about this soul recycling that he brought forth to my consciousness. I never heard of this, but apparently there's been even cultural references. There's a movie called Sausage Party about this, very much about like the simulation, but more so about what to be careful and to watch for in order to finally get out of this simulation, which is very much like what they call the wheel of karma. That's actually what they refer to this part of the universe, the solar system in which we live, the wheel of karma, like the Ouroboros eating its own tail. We get trapped here. So we're talking with Tarek about how to basically end that, and not continue to stay trapped. And being an entrepreneur as well as an artist, I can totally relate to him. And he shed so much. Moon in Pisces, like we both share the Pisces, the watery moon, and then the fiery sun. He's in Aries. So I think this is going to be a really good one. I'm really excited to have him and to bring him forth to you. So yeah, kick back and enjoy the show. We left off a little bit. We got to know about you. Today I want to hear more about your views and how you've connected the dots.
Let's go
like
deep.
We said, go as deep as you want.
Yeah.
Go as what this soul recycling concept is that you've been telling us about.
Yeah, I feel like everyone has their awakening at some point in their journey. I feel like some souls maybe come in with a little bit more of older soul to them, and some feel more of like a new soul. So I think
By that, what do you mean? Like more lives on Earth?
Yeah, old
right?
soul to me, someone who's come in either from higher consciousness, let's say planet or dimension.
Right.
Because let's be humble enough to remember that planet Earth is not the only game.
It's not the only classroom in university.
Universes, there's infinite universes,
Exactly.
right? Not just the one we're in.
I agree.
And within our universe, there's so much.
Totally.
There's so many places that beings can come from.
Totally.
Some people say Pleiades, Arcturus, Sirius, Lyran, so much, right? And there's so much we don't know. So, and then there's planets, and then there's also dimensional. There's beings that come from higher dimensions. So it's a whole...
Which are not even in these planets, in these planes.
Yeah.
I remember once the breakdown of planet was like plane, E.T., like extraterrestrials on this plane. But there's different dimensions.
Bars.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
Arr, shout out to the pink pirate. We're here.
We
Don't
got bars.
Yeah, we got bars for days. Don't forget to hit like, comment, subscribe. Just get the algorithm. It helps us reach more people. I know there's so many people that want to hear exactly what he's about to explain. Because if you've been on the truth-seeking journey, then it's teachers like Tarek, aka Indigo Prophet, that you want to hear, because I think you've connected a lot of dots. I agree, like there is an age of the soul, and there's no question, just even astrologically confirmed with you, that you've got many, I think, times that you've been here. You must be remembering almost just a little easier than the average person.
Yeah. And it's like the Matrix, right? Neo was starting to awaken, and he had people with him that were like, all right, we've been through this process.
Right.
So they were able to guide him through that awakening a lot easier. But everyone else in that Matrix reality were, going to their work and doing the 9 to 5 and still stuck in that like...
that cycle.
Yeah, that hamster wheel.
Hamster wheel.
So fast track to now, and by the way, this is me from college. I'm dropping out of college. I take a philosophy elective that opens up my mind, teaches me how to think. Story of Socrates.
Socrates
How inspired me. Like, I will die with the truth. I will not lie to the youth. I think because he was inspiring youth, right?
Oh, wow.
So he was like, they gave him the option, right? They gave him the option.
I love that. I will die with the truth.
Yeah. Right? Like, didn't they give him the poison? And they were like, either take the poison to kill yourself or admit that everything you were saying was untrue.
That's
Isn't
right.
that the story?
That's right.
Bro, it just did something to me on a deep level. And I dropped out of college and I followed my passion. And literally before dropping out of college, I started putting these flyers all over the place saying, let's get together and break free from the matrix.
Wow.
Like that became...
You flyered that. You flyered that.
Yeah, like very basic. But I
like
was
you
like...
took action. And
I'm like, this is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, this is until this day, I still feel like the topic we're going to talk about is the most important thing. And I feel I had this nightmare once where everyone was drowning. So the world was flooded.
Wow.
I was swimming, going around like, oh my God, it's flooded. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
And bro, people were sitting down, having their coffees and teas, smoking their cigarettes with everything flooded as if, you know, the metaphor of what that means. They're like, they're not faded, but they're not affected by the fact that this flood's coming.
Yeah. Not phased.
Not phased. That's the word. Just like as business as usual, like so hooked into the matrix that it's like, and I'm the one freaking out. And I'm sure I've had a repeat of this because it feels like a past life where maybe Atlantis sank or
Noah's Ark. The
Noah's
symbolism of the flood.
And if you're saying it's happened many cycles,
apparently it's cyclical. Like the earth is reset. It's like a great factory reset that God, whatever you want to call it, puts. And it's it goes through the elements. It's either pommeled by meteors, so that's earthquakes, right? It's earth, or it's flooded, like the Noah's Ark and that symbolism. Maybe being moon in Pisces, you were there during one of those floodings. So that's why, like you've got that like a fish. He knows and can navigate the waters. Yeah. But go on,
so I feel like every time humanity gets to a place where we're waking up or connecting dots, we're seeing it for what it is. It's like this reset happens and we all just hopefully we don't get wiped out. I feel like there are stories of Hopi Indians going into the rocks, into the earth. There's in Turkey what they're discovering now, this huge underground civilization.
Göbekli Tepe.
Tepe.
Greg Radin talks a lot about that.
Graham Hancock.
Graham Hancock as well.
And so it's almost like they knew and they went underground to protect themselves from these floods and whatever happened.
Anticipated them.
And imagine some of us didn't have that wipe out where it's like we go back to kindergarten. Imagine some of us somehow still were able to who remembered these things and retain that knowledge. And soul recycling is something, and I've been like a spiritual investigative journalist since dropping out of college when I was 25. I'm now 42.
Wow.
So I've been doing my own investigation, journalism, what's happening on our planet, what are the dark forces, how are they controlling us, how do we break free, has been my like full-time job.
Wow, bro. That makes so much sense with your natal chart. Yeah. You just nailed it. Say it again, a spiritual
journalist.
Investigative journalist. It's like a spiritual forensic investigative journalist, because that's like Piscean moon, Virgo rising. And then, of course, then your music is where you see your revolutionary
Whenever
energy.
I learn something, I'll put it into my healing work. I'll put it into my music. So that it's like...
Aries, like, let's go, guys.
Something
Shake
about
up,
it.
wake
let's
up.
Let's not just talk about it. Let's do something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're right. I love how you broke that down. Thank you.
Connecting the dots, baby.
Yeah.
So talk to me about this. What does it mean to have...
So imagine that. So right now we're at a place where we can normalize the fact that we're living in a simulation. Like even public figures like Elon Musk, who I believe is controlled opposition. I even saw him today doing. And whenever you see the 666 sign, yes, it's a positive mudra, which you're a yoga teacher. But it's also like we're the 666 gang. Like it's almost like they're saying we're. So if they're pretending to kind of oppose, or it's almost like if they do these symbols, they're letting the elites know, hey, we're still controlled opposition. Don't mistake me for being...
We're still on your team.
We're still on your team. So it's like a gang sign.
Right.
So whenever you see that, you see the one eye symbolism. Those are all gang signs. Freemasonic signs, they put the hand under the, they've got the hand under the shirt, or you lift the one sleeve.
Yes.
That's a Freemasonic sign.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Freemasons could be for good or bad. I did a video the other day. I saw that the Toronto police station is a Freemasonic
The
police
organization,
symbol. This is a sigil, really. And
sigil is the proper term. Look up sigil. It
Freemasonic.
literally means a pictograph or like a mandala. It holds and carries a specific energy vibration,
Yeah.
and it almost is like a black hole. It sucks in everything to do with that particular vibration.
Yeah. And I think Jay-Z said the war is not going to be like physical war. It's going to be a war of symbols. Someone said that. I think it was
Totally.
Jay-Z. And
Yeah, absolutely.
because it speaks to our subconscious mind. So it
Symbolism
bypasses
is
our
the language
conscious.
of the subconscious.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if you're not symbol literate in this day and age, then you won't be able to connect the
And it
dots.
speaks to our
because-
reptilian brain.
Yes.
And these reptilians that are on our planet are obsessed with symbology. Everything's symbology for them. Numerology, symbology.
Yeah.
But anyways, so
real
imagine,
quick also about Elon Musk, he was not only like he's doing these mudras and symbols. He wore last Halloween, or if not the one that just passed, the one before, he was dressed as Baphomet.
Oh, Baphomet.
You saw that, right?
Yeah, I did.
Like that's a very specific archetype.
Yeah, I would recommend look up Esoteric Eddie. I just got a message from him today, Esoteric Eddie, and he broke down where the Baphomet came from, and he did a whole he does these really cool esoteric documentaries.
Okay.
And he did one about Lucifer.
Okay.
And really amazing stuff, because the guy who drew Baphomet was really a spiritual guy trying to create an image that is like, okay, we're a part animal, we're part human, we're part masculine, we're part feminine.
Yeah,
when
the
you look at it from that
androgynous-
way, there's nothing negative about it. But
about that.
these other guys came along, the Satanists or whatever, and they're
Yes.
like, yeah, Baphomet, we worship the devil. And
Yeah,
it's like, it became that. And with
And
a lot of these
demonized
symbols, like Illuminati symbols, like
Yep.
those are ancient symbols. Like just
The
because
swastika.
they just invert it, right?
Inverted.
Yeah.
The Aleister Crowley took the 5-pointed star upside down.
Flipped it.
Because the
Yeah.
5-pointed star at the top is spirit, and then
The
it's
pentagram.
water, right? The pentagram.
That's right. And
At
I
the-
saw an Instagram post recently where they're like, "Oh, you think this is anti-Christian?" And they show it on churches.
Yeah,
Pentagrams
yeah.
on
yeah.
churches.
It's these are nature symbols.
Yeah.
But they take the symbol and they invert it.
Inverted.
Like our language is perverted,
Distortion.
100% flip, just like
Yeah.
On the 5-pointed star specifically, the top of that star is ether or spirit,
Okay.
and the bottom two are earth and fire,
Okay.
which is also black and red,
Mm.
earth, soil, and blood.
Yeah.
So they turned the spirit, put it in the ground,
Mm.
buried your third eye, calcification,
And it's-
all that symbolism. And what reigns is earth and fire.
Mm.
That's why his
It's like
story,
earthly pleasures and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah.
and his story, whoever's got the biggest force,
Yeah.
so to speak, and conquers everything else and
Yeah.
writes the books in his favor.
Yeah.
So,
And I just watched the movie Napoleon, and I did a video about it, and I was like, okay, because I remember he had a picture when he had his hand, like the hidden hand,
the same hidden hand,
where
yeah.
it's like when the hand goes inside between the buttons.
the buttons. Yeah.
And in my mind, I was like, well, he was responsible at the end of the movie. They said he was responsible for the death of 3 million people. So I was like, Freemason, 3 million people. And it's like history keeps killing these people. And I went on this whole tangent. And then the next day I got on Instagram and they were like, did you know that Napoleon actually was opposing the people who were creating the central bank system?
Yeah.
So he was like, we want to create our own bank. And we want to oppose the central bank, which are the real guys running the show.
That's right. The elitists.
So then I was like, okay, there
Yeah.
are Freemasons that are there opposing
Yes.
the elitists, and there are Freemasons that are kind of puppeteering their agenda.
Yeah.
So he may have been one of the ones, if he was fighting the central banks, then he might have been one that was using that knowledge for good. But soul recycling. So if we are living in the matrix, and we are being controlled by things like money, which is one person's idea that this is of currency. But if you go beyond that, they all worship non-physical beings. So at the top
Yes.
of the hierarchy is not a physical being, it's a non-physical race of beings.
Yes.
Call them entities, call them demons, spirits, whatever you want to call them. The visual I have is best believe that they're running stuff on the other side.
Yes.
So soul recycling means you die. And it's like, have you ever watched those jail movies where there's a certain gang, let's say like the white power gang,
The gangs within the
different
prison.
gangs, the blacks, the Hispanics, the Muslims, whatever.
But you're saying like there's the same thing happening.
Yeah,
in the
but this is the
non-physical.
metaphor. So the white Nazi gangs loved it so much they were running shit in prison, but they were like They sold their souls. They have this demonic thing to them.
In jail, they're
so
in
they
power.
want everyone to stay in jail because that's where they have power.
That's the
They
only
don't want them to
domain.
leave.
They have authority.
And the same thing I got was these entities are in power here, but they don't want us to leave this prison planet.
Okay.
So they came up with this theory of soul recycling is if all the souls just decided, you know what, we're done with this.
Yeah.
Well, let's leave and let's go to the true light. Let's go to the true source. Let's get out of this hamster wheel.
Kind of like Squid Game, where there was actually a clause in the agreement where if they did all agree, more than 50%, they were allowed to all leave.
Wow.
Yeah.
I need to watch that.
Well, there's always in all these series and episodes. We just started it actually yesterday.
Okay.
And I didn't want to see because it's heavy, but but there it is. Go on. This is
so imagine.
Wow.
So they don't want that because they get their power from us. And what is the thing that they need from us? It's our energy.
Yes.
Just like in the Matrix, it's the batteries. Remember they said you are a battery.
Literally. Yeah.
So we're feeding this system. Another movie to watch is Monsters Inc. Watch it like a documentary, but there's so much truth into it because it shows you the monsters, aka the entities. It shows you their world. They come to planet Earth through portals when we're sleeping. They scare the kids or they're feeding off of us right now. Yep. They're right now, best believe what's happening in Palestine and Israel and what now exploded to the whole world is a feeding frenzy for these entities, which they call Robert Monroe, who studied in between lives and near-death experiences, calls it loosh. It's like their food supply. They're just getting high off of us transmitting fear and despair and all those kind of emotions. So they want that to keep happening. The best thing we can do is continuously transmit love and passion. And the best thing we can do is just what you end your podcast with is remember who you are. Because when we remember who we are, we're like, oh yeah, this is all temporary.
Yeah.
This is just a meat suit, as you call it.
Meat suit, yeah, that's it.
And we are infinite consciousness. We always were, we always will be. And this is all just a
hijacked simulation that we find ourselves trapped in.
Yeah.
That we don't have to be trapped in. So how do we stay trapped? By recycling. Explain that a little bit more.
To go right into it. So the theory is when you die, just like we have a light here, there's the false light. And you ever see a moth trying to hit your light?
Keeps going back, into the
Do you know why they do that?
No.
So moths mate in the moonlight. That's how they see each other. So they're all in the moonlight. So they're programmed to go towards the light. And in the moonlight, they're like, hey, how you doing? You single? I'm single. That's where they do their thing. No way. Yeah. But when they see our light, they're not aware that that's not the moonlight. So that in their reality, the metaphor is this is the false light. And they're trapped here. And it's such a good metaphor because the moth will go into like a hot bulb and like burn itself. And what we're doing is apparently when we die, these entities are like, okay, how can we trap the humans to get them to keep coming back? Because I started off as a hypnotherapist and I used to do past life regressions and I would do them in big groups and festivals. And I was a little worried and concerned that everyone kept coming back to planet Earth. If there are infinite options, why is it that we keep coming back to planet Earth? Is this the only game in town? Like, is there nothing else?
Are there not other classrooms to graduate from?
Yeah.
Have you not learned the lesson on this plane?
And I want to get to that because there's a lot of these programs like you need to learn lessons. Who said that? Are we not infinite consciousness on some level? And why is it that when we die that we get this fucking Men in Black thing that wipes off our memories? If we're here to learn lessons, shouldn't we keep those?
Why is that part of the soul
wisdom,
contract?
Right?
Why
and
do we
continue it so we get wiser and wiser? Why do we die at 100? What would happen if we surpass the program of dying at 100? It's like exactly at the age where you're like, now I see everything clearly and I can teach. It's like now you're stuck in an old age home and you're dead.
No, we need to reset you.
Yeah. So with the great resets happening on a collective level, when humanity rises to an awareness level, old people are leaving when they're supposed to be elders and educating the younger people.
Yes. Well, that was by virtue, again, by design as well.
By design.
The whole cooties scamdemic was targeting literally the elders. Why? Because that's the job in the tribe, is to pass the wisdom down. They're not there to do it, then we're relying on what? The books. And who's the books written by? His story. Exactly. Who's he? Like we said, whoever's conquering and pulling the strings.
Yeah.
So.
And so imagine these entities, and just like in a nightmare, they can, I don't know if you've had this experience, but when I had nightmares, an entity is aware of what my biggest fear is. Somehow they have this.
They know you.
They have spiritual tools that somehow that's one of their gifts, is they're able to, oh, I know Nico's biggest vices, biggest okay, he's a Leo, but I know there's a little ego there I can manipulate.
They know
grandiose or whatever. They know your weaknesses.
The strings and how to pull them.
And so in the nightmares, like Monsters, Inc., they suck all that fear energy. So they know what your biggest fear is. They'll simulate it because they have the ability to simulate in our dreams and imagination world.
Right.
And then they suck off all that fear. Just like in Monster, Inc., they put it in this machine which goes and fuels their whole reality.
There you go. You want to connect some dots? There's another
Monsters, Inc. for sure,
and then you need to check
Matrix. Study that again, and the same year of Matrix was Dark City, which didn't get as much shine.
Oh yeah, we just saw that recently.
Did you?
Yep, Dark City. Where they're like,
they make that reptilian sound.
Reptilian, yeah.
They do,
and they're changing. There's no light
timelines, right? In the sleep state.
13th floor is another one.
Great,
important,
amazing, because it's like we were God beings. We created this virtual reality, but we got stuck in here. We forgot, and we forgot that it's a virtual reality.
The other one is Butterfly Effect. With
Butterfly Effect, all the different timelines.
Yeah,
I would say Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds. Matrixy video game.
Okay, very relevant to today's
big time
with VR now, virtual reality. Yeah.
And then if you watch his older movie, it's called The Nines. Again, more like 13th floor. There's different dimensions.
Got it.
So let me get back to it. So you go there, false beings of light. Just like in the dream state, they know what your nightmare is and they can act it out. In the afterlife, they know what you believe in. So if you loved your granddad, you were super close with him, and he died when you were young, they'll manifest their shapeshifters, just like the genie character in Aladdin, shapeshift into whatever. And genie comes from jinn, which is the Arabic word for entities.
Right.
In the Quran, in Muslim culture, we're aware of these trickster beings. We call them jinn. There's prayers that say, God, make sure I don't hear the whispers of the jinn. That the only voice I'm listening to is the voice of my heart of God. So there, at least with that culture, there's more awareness of these beings. So with Christianity as well, demonic spirits, and we're aware that they're manipulating.
Well, the Gnostics, at least. I mean, the not the typical,
which call them the archons.
Yes, that's the word they used. Exactly, archons, archonic, demonic, anything but harmonic.
And they talk about false light. The entities can't create their own thing because we have creativity. We have the gift of imagination.
Co-creating with the universe itself.
But they need us to watch their imagination movies, their Disney movies. They need to use us to create their reality. They can't create it on their own.
That's right.
So false light, you die, you see this false light, you get sucked into it, it mesmerizes you, some kind of like technology, and they'll show up in whatever way that works for you. So if you believe in Jesus, they might show up as Jesus, and they're like, hey, come here, my son, let us do a life review, which there's tons of NDE, near-death experience data. There's books and research about what people see when they go to the
and it's always
afterlife.
Very similar. It's like white
always
light.
Positive. They see the light, and you see Jesus, or you see Buddha. You do a beautiful life review. Yeah, feels so good. Yeah. But the ones you don't hear about are those guys who are like, oh my God, I've seen what's on the other side, and it's like not what it's. They see that it's false light. Yeah, they come back and they're like unable to function because they saw the reality. That's the crazy guy on the street yelling or whatever. Like they've seen it. Yeah. You know?
That character in Soul who's spinning the sign. Yeah. The captain on the ship there.
Exactly. The captain
who's helping the lost souls, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. So watch Soul, study it.
Big one too.
Right?
Big one.
And it talks about the soul recycling. So what they say is, do not go into the false light. Everyone's like mesmerized when they die. They see Jesus, Buddha, mother, father, whatever, and they go there. But what we're supposed to do is look back here, and there's like a portal that leads us back to, let's say, source, or back into the real light, the origin, true light, the origin,
the source.
With here you have, and there's a very famous
and that scene. Light is not even a light. It's almost like a black light. It's like a void.
Void. An interesting study. There's a book called Word Magic. Study that book. But the word avoid has the word void in it. So what does that subliminally tell you? Avoid the void.
Right.
And every movie, it's like, don't be in the dark. All those horror movies are always like, the dark is scary.
We're scared of the dark.
Always go to the light. So
Yes.
it's programmed. It's programmed. Every movie about the light, it's always like, go to the light, go to the light. But I remember seeing this video where they took, they showed you how the light is a trap. They'll guilt trip you because they can't force you to come back to planet Earth.
You have to
but
consent.
They'll find out your weakness. Like, hey,
Yeah.
Nico, you are a light worker. You were supposed to raise the consciousness of humanity.
Right,
You
right.
failed that mission.
You had all these gifts. How could you
wasted
not?
it or whatever?
Yeah.
Whatever you know in your heart, you're like, oh yeah, you got me there. You know.
Yeah.
So they know that, and they'll use that against you. And for every person, it's different. And then they can't force you because there is free will.
Free will.
But they can't force you. But they'll say, they'll find a way to trick you. And then you, after you watch your life review, you go, okay, I'm gonna go back and do it again. I messed up. I didn't learn the lessons. I didn't clear enough karma, or whatever it is. You're a sovereign. You are an infinitely sovereign being. Sovereign means there is no I need to. I need to feels like a new age version of like God will punish me for good sins and bad deeds, and we don't need to do good. Sausage Party. Haha, it's cute, it's funny, it's animation, but it's so deep, and it talks about what I'm talking about because they depict all the grocery items in the supermarket as, let's say, it's all humanity, because there's the Turkish lavash bread or whatever, and there's like the Jewish bagel or whatever, and they're fighting. It's
so all these iconic foods,
Mexican
to represent
salsa, whatever.
Got it.
So that's humanity. It's a metaphor. Like, study it from that's all planet Earth, and then they're like, the great beyond is when the doors open and the gods, which are the humans buying the groceries, everyone in this movie believes that the great beyond is like, they have a song for it, I think, and they're like, one day we'll go to the great beyond, and it's so poetic and it's so majestic, and but then one character, like the crazy one in Soul, was like, oh my God, the gods, they eat us. And
he's the knower. He's the crazy guy that no one wants to listen to.
Exactly.
He knows.
And I feel like that crazy guy, we got to be careful with this false light, because the gods literally are just devouring us. They're just taking everything.
And that's how they're devouring us, is they're convincing us to come back to this plane.
That's how they trick us.
Yeah. Where they can draw our fear to feed their like spaceship.
And they get better and better at knowing how to manipulate us in each lifetime. They get better and better.
Right.
So how do we break out of that is I'm sovereign. To me, sovereignty, I mean, there's a whole sovereignty movement where you realize how these entities, archons, use the words to, like, you're consciously giving your power away with words.
Spell
your
magic,
birth certificate.
Yes.
I understand your honor. I stand underneath you.
Exactly.
So
good morning, like,
death.
as if we're grieving first thing in the day. You know what I mean? Like, it's just
mortgage is connected to the word death.
Death, pledge, language. We even pledge to the tongue.
Yeah.
The tongue is twisted, right? The concept of the twisted tongue.
So when your parents give you a birth certificate, they're basically giving your rights away to the government. Now the government owns you. You are a product. Your social insurance number is the barcode.
Yeah.
And they actually trade that in stocks. So your currency for them.
That's the value. That ups the value of the GDP of the nation, so it has more.
And you're born into debt. You're slaved into debt.
Yeah.
You're tricked into being in debt.
Yeah.
And you're used as collateral.
That's why they want to keep us here, basically, because that's where they can rule. That's their domain.
They've
that's their stomping grounds. They got
figured out how to trick us with money, trick us from birth.
So there you go, man. There's a whole bunch of movies here that you've listed.
Yeah.
You guys got to do your homework, though. Like I always say,
do
man.
The
like
legwork.
We've only just shared some of how we've connected the dots here, but the key is, in order to remember who you are, you need to connect your own dots.
Yeah.
And that being said,
the real light at the end of the, or the real void at the end of the tunnel. So avoid these traps, is get comfortable on Earth in this simulation. A lot of people, soldiers, before they go to the war, they master, before they go to war, they do a simulation of what they're going to do. So use this simulation we're in to practice for the afterlife. The ancient Egyptians, they were obsessed with the afterlife. So how many classes have we taken on what to do when we die? Zero.
Right.
And I feel like this is the most important topic that we all need to master. Otherwise, we just keep coming back over and over again. So how can we master what happens is getting comfortable being sovereign. The more comfortable we are here breaking the trap of people pleasing. Oh, yes, yes, sir. Yes, government. Yes, dad. Yes, mom. Yes, everyone. So we got to bring out this other side that's like, no more Mr. Nice Guy.
Yes.
That other side that's like, no boundaries. I know my sovereignty. I don't have to come back and learn more lessons. The more comfortable we get doing that here, then when we go to the other side, it's like, no, I don't need to clear any karma.
Yeah.
I'm okay being an imperfect human being who made mistakes.
That's it.
And if you can get guilt tripped in this lifetime, best believe they'll guilt trip you in the afterlife.
Yeah. Yo,
we have the technology to do that.
Make it like a song. Make it like a Macarena, like a dance move, bro.
Yeah, like
then
a
when you see it, then you
turn around, look. The pause light
Then when they try to convince you one more time, you say, "No,
I am sovereign."
Yeah, I am sovereign. I like that better. Yeah, man. Sovereign, from what I understand, it means having no master above you. And the best way I heard it explained was by one of the guests. Stay tuned for Daniel. He has no surname. He's one of these brothers that understands all of the sovereignty law and maritime law.
Oh, yeah, he told me about him.
Yeah, he explains sovereign. A true Christian is one who knows that the only sovereign, meaning master, above him is God.
Yeah.
And even God, you don't say yes to, you say thank you to, because he said yes to you being able to even incarnate. The problem is when we come into this life, from what I understand, they call this particular Milky Way galaxy the wheel of karma. And that's why we get stuck into this hamster wheel, because there are these archonic, demonic, beings that have mastered how to manipulate and keep us here.
Yeah.
Because it takes apparently a lot of courage to even come to the earth plane, they say. It's like there's a lot of people, souls, lined up. And to come here alone is a lot of work. But then the problem is we get here and we're trapped. We're stuck. So thank you for shedding some light on that. Soul recycling. Like, I never even heard of that until a conversation that we had. And I knew we had to talk about that on one of our segments here.
We really need to dive deep into what happens when we die. We really need to figure out, how do we avoid the traps here? How do we avoid the traps there? If you want to come back to planet Earth from your free will, great. But if you're doing it from being manipulated, that's not cool.
Of course. Do you believe that ayahuasca or any of these types of like plant medicines where you literally induce like a kind of a simulated death, do you think that that's something you have to do? Or do you think
I feel like it's being pushed now, like a new religion, like it's almost like the new age now.
Right.
It involves like, hey, how many times did you do ayahuasca? I did bufo.
It's become, we do live in dangerous times, man.
You need to be grounded. I fast for like days off of so many things before doing a mushroom set, and I just mess with mushrooms. Like, I don't need more than that, and I'll just go to the forest. Or like if you're at home, create a sacred space.
Yeah.
Do it ceremonially. Do it with intention. Do it when it's calling you to do it.
Sure.
Don't just go after it, but like when it calls you.
Yeah.
And they try to wipe out the Jews in Nazi Germany. They're still here. They try to wipe out Armenians with the Turkish genocide.
That's right.
Armenians
Turkish
are still
genocide.
here. They're trying to wipe out Palestinians. We're still here. So also to give ourselves peace of mind that they can't wipe us out. Like, we'll still be here.
Totally. The human spirit will always rise.
Yeah.
No doubt. Like the winning, there's not even a match between the light and the dark. The dark doesn't even exist. It's the absence of light. But it does, in the yin yang symbol, provide an understanding of how this recycling takes place.
Yeah.
And I think that's brought us a lot of, me at least for now, I hope you guys agree. Again, comment, share your ideas. This is a conversation.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts
about this? I remember doing a poll on Facebook. How many here felt like me that you felt you didn't choose to come here as a child? You were very and everyone on my Facebook was like, "Oh my God, you're describing exactly how I felt."
Yeah.
I felt kind of tricked into being here, confused that I was here. Why am I here? Who are my parents? Like, what the hell's going on? No one came here being like, how some people say you choose your parents, and it's like I've seen a kid. Like a really star-seedy kid.
Starseed, that's
his mom was like, I love you. And he was like, I love you more because I chose you. I really believe it for them. Like, this kid was like, I'm choosing that to be my mom. But I feel like, first, I don't know if it's our generation, but it was like a lot of people I kind of did my own research on said they felt tricked. They didn't want to be here. They were confused why they were here. So what happened? How did we get here?
Right.
The new age wants to depict it like everything's roses and you chose your parents and the tough lesson. And there's some truth to that. But I feel like it scares me when the New Age mindset speaks with such authority. No, you chose to be here. No, we're learning lessons.
I think that's important.
There's always like
as we're awakening
reason.
and becoming more sure about what's really happening here, connecting the dots. Even myself, I got to remind myself to not make conclusions. The true scientist is constantly like, Socrates, I know one thing for sure, I know nothing. Truly being a scientist or an inquisitive mind means constantly not concluding, just observing really taking really good observations, having controls and systems and protocols to regulate how you're making observations, not to draw conclusions, but to have a better hypothesis for the next set of controls, for the next set of observations. And that's the process we need to keep on, I think, repeating in order to fully become aware of who and what we are. Because at the end of the day, I know that, not that I know who I am, but I know that I'm asking the right questions, and then the question is the answer.
Yes, I like that.
So encouraging you guys to ask more questions.
Ask great questions.
And you can find Tarek Bibi at
TarekBibi.com, Tarek Bibi on all social media.
Yeah, to check in. And everyone, you have to find your teacher, find your voice, because the voice, again, recognition. There's also the face recognition, but there's also the voice recognition. And I could tell you everything that, that we just said here, and one person will believe it and be like, absolutely, wow, that resonates. And the other person will be like, that's complete garbage. But like, it really comes down to who it is that you're listening to. And I think that's the first principle that Kevin Trudeau mentions, right?
And truth resonates, right? So if you're speaking truth to me energetically, my body will go, resonates as true. Yeah. So it's not like you're telling me something outside of me. You're ringing true for me, something that's already within.
That's it.
Wisdom is like an internal thing.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. It's an internal compass that when it finds it, it knows, and it's just going to be like, that's it. So follow. Find and follow. Like Einstein, fellow Pisces over there, who is this like multi-dimensional. Again, schizophrenic on the vice, multi-dimensional in the virtue. Recognizing that you're not singular, you're self-similar to everything out there. When the mind is calmly collected and the imagination is properly directed, and imagination is what Einstein said is more important than knowledge.
Yes.
Right? Well, that's when we can start to connect the dots. It's easier to see the picture. So I'm your host, Nico Sofianos. Remember who you are.